Let me know who you're representing here today, whether you're the applicant, the owner, or neighboring property owner, someone else from the community or involved with the project. So we will start with, I have someone under the name Grant.
Hi, Grant Riley and Bridget Riley in the room with me. We are the property owners.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, welcome. Okay. I see we also have Charlie Kraft here.
Yeah, Charlie Kraft. I'm the neighboring property.
Okay. Welcome. And see that we have representatives from the drawing department.
Hello, I'm Rob Bush at Drawing Department. Go ahead.
I'm Anna Hargan with Drawing Department.
And we've been the architects working with the Rileys on this project.
Anna, could you spell your last name for me?
Hargan.
Okay, great, welcome. I see we also have Kate Meehan here from the planning department. Welcome, Kate.
Yes, good morning.
Hi. So we have one more person attempting to join us. On the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us here before we get started, or are you ready to proceed?
I don't believe so. Rob, Anna, can you confirm?
Sorry, I was on mute. I believe we're ready to proceed. Yes.
Okay, great. See, we have Pat Dreyer. Pat Dreyer, are you with us? If so, if you could unmute.
Hello, how are you guys?
Hi, just doing well. Just getting everyone checked in. So is your name Pat Dreyer? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And are you connected? How are you connected to the project, if at all?
I'm the property right behind it on Wilshire.
Awesome. Okay, great. Welcome. All right, we're just getting started now. So before we get into the actual hearing, I need to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll begin. So this is the January 29th, 2025 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. Again, my name is David Strickey. I'm the zoning hearing examiner for the city. The case before us today is case number ZH20240164. That's 3640 Bellecrest Avenue. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So for our purposes here today, the individuals from the drawing department and the Rileys, this will be your opportunity to tell me about the case, any background you think is important, what exactly is the scope of the project, the relief that's needed to complete the project, and the zoning relief that is, and then of course why you think that zoning relief is appropriate for this application. You all can orient that presentation however you'd like. One of you can speak, all of you can speak. It's really up to you how you want to communicate that information to me. After you all are done, I will then move on to members of the public. Again, for our purposes here today, that'll be Mr. Dreyer and Mr. Kraft. If either of you would like to provide any testimony in relation to this project, that will be your opportunity to do that or to ask any questions. I'll then move on to the planning department. Ms. Meehan has produced a staff report in relation to this application, and I'll give her an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to that staff report if she would like. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicants will have a chance to respond to that testimony that's offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicants will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's some defect with the Zoom tech that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, the last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. If you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if you are certain now that you would like to provide some testimony, I'm going to collectively swear all of those people in together. So if that's you, if you could please take yourself off of mute. I'll need everyone to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right. Who's going to be taking the lead here for us on the applicant's presentation?
I was gonna plan on just doing an introduction to the project and
Sure.
seeing the key points that I think you were bringing up. Unless Grant, you wanted to say something, Bridget. Okay, I'll start. Then,
Okay, floor is yours.
yeah, so the subject property is in residential zone, single family 6, of which has established setback regulations. Those were all captured by a survey, and upon further research, we realized that the lot was actually narrower than the allowed or the required width for the property. And because this lot is narrower than the required width of the property, the setback was also modified in accordance. As such, we were proposing to do an addition, which is basically an extrusion of the existing footprint of the existing house. However, because the existing house is non-compliant, the existing house was built prior to the existence of a zoning code and or the current zoning code, and the existing house is non-compliant by 11 inches. As such, we're asking for relief to be able to do an addition that is matching in the width of the existing home, which would make the addition also 11 inches non-compliant. So we're asking for those additional 11 inches. The primary hardship we're finding is that the house, because of the lot and because of access to the back of the property, is also narrow. The narrowness of the house is making it difficult to fit in the primary functions that the owner is desiring to achieve with this project, which includes a second floor master bathroom and a second floor bedroom. And being able to fit those things in and provide access to those spaces via a corridor, even using the minimum dimensions, really doesn't fit without the additional 11 inches. So in the spirit of the design of the existing house, sort of honoring its existing width and design, and in the spirit of accomplishing the primary goals of the project to provide this additional space for a growing family and no offense to an exceptionally small home, we went with a design that required the 11 inches of relief. So that would be my cursory summary. Does that satisfy the basic description you were looking for?
Yeah. I mean, that gives me a better idea of what exactly the scope of the project is. Let me share my screen just to get a visual on this as I ask just a couple questions before we hear from the rest of the applicant side here. So can everyone see my screen here? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. And so it looks like this is sort of just an outline of the proposed addition here, or the, what you call that, the envelope, the building envelope of the proposed addition. And you said that the existing facade is legally non-conforming, meaning that it was built prior to the zoning code, and then the new zoning code regulations laid over top of that, it doesn't conform with, but is legal because it existed prior to the implementation of the new zoning code. Is it this side?
That is correct.
The
Yes.
narrower side? Okay.
Correct.
And
And,
so the new,
also, just to provide some clarification, the orange box shown dash doesn't represent the exact shape of the proposed house. The house doesn't have a flat roof, for example, or nor is it as boxy as that diagram is showing. That was just intended to show the basic scope of the addition area. We do provide additional drawings that provide for that. And I should also just mention that the existing house has already a giant deck on the back, which is also non-compliant, which we're talking about removing. So even though the proposed addition is a little bit bigger than the deck, the existing deck was already non-compliant too, and that is the essential footprint of where this addition is going.
got it. Okay. And so it looks like here this sort of illustrates that this deck will be removed and it'll be replaced with, I guess this would be the first story of the addition, and a covered porch that will
Correct.
extend a little bit further than the existing deck into the rear yard setback. Is that right?
That is correct, although all the components do fit within the setback.
Gotcha. Okay. So the only setback we're talking about here is this side yard setback here.
That's correct.
And-
It's the 11 inches on the top of the page, if you will.
Gotcha. Okay. So this and the proposed new addition and the existing facade only enter into the side setback beyond the regulation approximately 11 inches. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if you were to bring this side in 11 inches, it could be built without any zoning relief. Is that right?
That's correct. And obviously that was something we considered very early on in the design. And if you look at the first floor plan, that would be an achievable premise functionally. However, when we get to the second floor and you look at the existing layout, the idea of getting bedroom for their kids and as well as getting a primary bedroom upstairs with a full bath and getting access to those spaces via a corridor, which is the minimum dimension, you can kind of see that every single space is pretty squeezed. So that 11 inches becomes particularly valuable to a reasonable second floor layout. So I think it is important that we consider the second floor plan specifically when we're discussing the 11 inches of relief we're trying to get.
Got it. Okay. So it'll be a 2-story addition with a basement as well, correct?
That's correct. And the basement, because the lot is sloping toward the rear yard, which is the right side of the page, that basement becomes, it's partially buried.
Unsure if
house-
drawing department's frozen, but yes, that it would be a basement as well.
I'm frozen. Are we frozen?
No,
There you go, Rob.
I can see and hear you.
Oh, okay. We lost
So,
connection then.
Yeah, so what we're, there's a basement and it's a full basement and that basement is walkout at the very back. We didn't change any of the grading of the yards. We left the grading the way it was.
Okay.
It naturally works out as a walkout.
Got it. Okay. I think that's all the questions I have right now. Anything else from the drawing department or the owners that you want to share before I move to public comment?
It's Grant and Bridget. I mean, the one thing that I'll add, and Rob kind of touched on it. I mean, we've been in our house for over 10 years. You know, love the neighborhood, love our home. Have been staring at the back of it for basically 10 years, thinking, what project can we do here? And then past few years, our family has grown and doubled in size, and the house has not doubled in size. So that's why we initiated this project and really looking to continue to grow in our family in the neighborhood for many, many years to go. Met some great people, met some great neighbors along the way. So, I mean, that's the whole basis of the project is love our neighborhood, love where we are, and love our people around us. So trying to get some more room so I don't share my closet with a 1- and 3-year-old as I currently am.
All right. Thanks. Anything else, drawing department, before we hear public comment? You'll have a chance to respond to anything and make closing arguments as well.
Yeah, more than happy to address any questions or concerns. We really do believe that the goal of this project was not to make the biggest project we could make. The goal of this project was to satisfy the program that the clients have asked for, which seems reasonable and in line with what we might expect in a Hyde Park neighborhood like this. And we tried to be very sensitive about the design and how you would see it from behind or from the side to make it look like it really belongs in the neighborhood. We're not trying to plant a spaceship on the back of this house. And we are concerned about it having the kinds of materials that we would find in this kind of neighborhood. So I know that wasn't really a question specifically, but I do think it's important just to mention that, from the very beginning, Grant and Bridget have been very sensitive about the design and how the design looks. We've looked at various options, and this was the one that we felt worked best with this existing house and this neighborhood.
Gotcha. So is it your position that the addition in style will match the character of the existing home?
To the degree that it's affordable, absolutely. That was, yes.
Okay. And in terms of the footprint, as I look at some satellite imagery, would you say that the overall footprint is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood? And looks like there are some smaller houses that that, you know, I'm sure are historic like this one, but also some houses that have a similar footprint as the one proposed.
Yeah, I would characterize this neighborhood as having some of both. There definitely are some smaller houses that will remain small probably, but I think this is definitely or at least I'm under the impression, maybe this is unfair, I'm the architect, I don't live there, but maybe Grant and Bridget can comment on this more, but this really feels like a family neighborhood with lots of families that are growing, and I would suspect that just based on the cost of a home and being in a neighborhood like Hyde Park, there'll probably continue to be additions and improvements to homes. Although maybe it's not fair to conjecture that, but I think it's a reasonable assumption. And there are other additions in the neighborhood that are similar to what we're proposing. So I don't think we're completely foreign to the context.
Yeah, Rob, you're right. There are several houses just since we've lived here, just, you know, walking around the neighborhood that we've noticed, you know, the additions on the back. There's one that's underway right now on Wilshire that I'm sure Pat's well aware of. It's kind of right across the street from him. They actually are going out, not back, but it kind of looks like they're about doubling the size of that house. So yeah, it's definitely not unheard of for there to be an addition happening in our neighborhood at any given time.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone. I think we'll move on now to public comment. So I'll start with Mr. Kraft and then go to Mr. Dryer. Mr. Kraft, did you want to add anything to the discussion here?
The only thing I got, I mean, being the side that's the 11 inches, I think having the house just stay at the same sort of plane line, there's no disruption. It wouldn't interfere with my driveway or any of that. But I did fill out a document of like concerns. I don't know if that made that your way, but they were pretty basic of, I got feedback from a realtor and she said, you know, make sure that water wouldn't be affected by your driveway, which seems to be, I was told that yes, that was being considered. That the access, not to use my driveway as access or storage, and then a post-construction cleanup was like to bring it back to as similar as the original state it was, like just don't have it be a big mud mess, which with their two kids, I am confident that is not what they want either. But that was all that I had. You know, I have no objections to the project proposed, but those were the concerns that I was told to bring up in case that document didn't make it your way.
Sure. So it sounds like concerns about potential water runoff, is that right? And then issues during the actual construction process, how that'll be handled with cleanliness and access to your property. Is that right?
Right. And, you know, I'm similar state to them. I have a 1-year-old child. So, you know, that would be, you know, hey, he's going to be running around. And I have 2 dogs. So trying to, you know, we'll keep them avoiding, you know, the construction area also.
Sure. Okay. I'll turn it over to applicants and the owners. Do you want to respond now to any of those concerns? Can you talk about the water runoff or any plans for that and how construction is going to be accomplished?
I think I would just comment, we're not the builder, we're not the general contractor, but I do know that the Rileys have engaged with a professional general contractor that we've met with several times, who is credible, is not somebody who's sort of a fly-by-night operation, who I believe will do things the right way in terms of cleanup, prep, site protection. Those are things that we fully believe in as well. We're fully committed to those things as much as we can control them as a designer or as an architect. And then as far as like the water runoff, I think that's a good, legitimate concern to have. And I think we're fully committed to dealing with stormwater the way the city requires us to deal with stormwater, which is, you know, in a connected way. So connecting back into the existing stormwater system and not just dumping our water out of the ground or dispersing it towards either the neighborhood on the left or the right side, or the rear for that matter. So there are obligations that are requirements of the code, and we'll get a full building permit that addresses all those issues. And the thing I guess I could offer is on our drawings, we have the ability on site plan to show construction fencing on Charlie, your property side, just to make sure that we have like just a clear demarcation of a construction line by providing a construction fence along that side. Just, I think sometimes it just adds to cleanliness and it gives the contractor some bounds, so he's not just continuing to creep your way.
Yeah.
That's the best I think I can offer as an architect. I don't know if Grant and Bridget have any stronger feelings or anything, but we do feel committed to your concerns. Those are legit concerns.
Yeah, I'd say our driveway is pretty defined, so you know, encroachment I'm not concerned about, but a fence or like a little barrier, you know, might be nice even for just my dogs and my child.
Yeah, I mean it's a tight neighborhood. I appreciate that, and it takes cooperation to do a project like this, but we'll do everything that we can to try to make sure the process is as painless as possible for you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Kraft. I appreciate your time and your contribution here today. Gonna move on to Mr. Dryer. Mr. Dryer, anything you wanted to add?
I just have one point, and that's really on the water runoff. Just wanted to see if they've looked into that or have any detention in place, just because I'm the property behind it and would probably be the most susceptible to flooding. But overall, no objections to the project, and it's something my wife and I are also looking into doing. So, but just wanted to put on the record the water runoff.
Yeah, again, drawing department, anything you wanted to, anything you can add about, I mean, in general, how additions like this on slopes can impact water runoff and.
Yeah, I mean, I would reiterate, and I support both Charlie's and Pat's concerns about water runoff, and we've all seen projects done poorly where there have been shortcuts, or maybe where certain areas of, maybe not in the city, but other areas in town where water can just be dumped on the surface, and guess what water does? You know, it follows gravity, it goes downhill. And the way I understand it, Pat, you're the downhill recipient of any extra water. Basically, we're adding very little additional hard surface. So I don't think there'll be hardly any difference in the amount of surface runoff. But I think what we do have to have is we have to have downspouts and gutters on our house to collect any water off of those hard surfaces. Those will have to be then tied into the existing stormwater system, which will deliver it to, you know, its proper underground resources that are available to, you know, out of the street. So technically how that's done, like how big the pipe is or the diameter of that pipe or how deep it's buried, is a little bit beyond my ability to answer. I know that we have to, by code, we have to address those things very specifically in our set of construction drawings, which will then be reviewed by the city for a building permit.
Okay. Mr. Dryer, anything else?
And the other point would be, is there any mitigation in place for working hours of the project? Such as like workers' starting time, end time, etc.
That's really a general contractor question that it would be inappropriate for me to try to answer. I'm not trying to skirt your question. I just legitimately have a real answer for you.
Yeah, we don't
Any
have
others?
a definitive answer for that right now, but that's a very valid point, and we will take that back to our contractor. And he's a very reasonable person. I don't envision him showing up at 4:30 a.m. and starting the power tools and working until midnight or anything like that. But that's definitely a very valid point. So we will definitely take that back to him.
Yeah, Pat, as a neighbor of other projects, I 100% agree with you on that concern. So we'll make that very clear with the general contractor as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Dryer. I appreciate your testimony and your questions, your time here today. I'm going to turn it over now to the planning department. Kate, is there anything you wanted to add to the information in your staff report? And are you aware of any city processes that monitor water runoff and those types of issues that are part of the permitting process?
So I know when this comes in for a building permit, certainly, for an addition like this, I'm sure that stormwater, waterworks will be copied, will be routed on the permit, so they would review it, MSD. So certainly those other departments that handle, water, sewer, things like that, will be routed on the permit and we'll take a look at it and they would be reviewing for those types of things, like the runoff, the water, how it's going to be um, contained or where the water will be routed. So yes, there are city departments that are in charge of those things that will review this permit.
Great, thank you. Anything else you want to add?
I don't really have much else to add. I would just say though, on this street, this is an SF6 zoning district. So lots in SF6 per the zoning code should be 50 feet wide. This lot is 40 feet wide, and 4,800 square feet. So it does meet that minimum standard, but it is not really compliant with, a regular size lot in SF6. And I did note, I did kind of look down the street and measure the lots, and this street very much has sub-minimum lots. Most of the lots that I measured are that 40 foot. So they are sub-minimum. So and side yard setbacks also were sub-minimum, just because the nature of having smaller lots. So those are both conditions that very much exist here. So it's not unusual to have a sub-minimum lot, and sub-minimum side yards, especially on this street. And I believe this continues on other streets like Wilshire, um, I think Alt Park Avenue. So certainly the smaller lot sizes make it a bit more challenging to meet the requirements of the zoning code, since those are sub-minimum lots.
Okay. Great, so generally you would say that the proposal is consistent with side setbacks throughout the neighborhood and general scope and footprint of other homes in the neighborhood?
Right. I think it would be, if someone wanted to do an addition on their home, I would think, there's a good chance that they would have non-conforming side yard setbacks. The other side yard is conforming and the rear yard setback is conforming here, but the one side yard where the relief is requested is not. And again, there are many other homes on the street that also, if someone were to propose an addition or something in the future, would likely need relief, also for a side yard setback, given the smaller lots, smaller side yards.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ms. Meehan. Appreciate
Sure.
your testimony, your work on the staff report. Okay, I'll turn it back over now to anyone from the drawing department or the owners to make any statements in closing or otherwise before we adjourn here today.
Yeah, I think I only wanted to say I feel like we've laid out a strong case. I do want to assuage everyone that we did try alternatives. I mean, it's easier to do a project without a variance. That's just the way it is. The nature of it is easier not to ask. But along with Grant and Bridget, we really felt like this 11 inches makes a big difference in how they can utilize their home. And we tried to do so in a smart, respectful way in regards to the neighborhood. I think the objections that both Charlie and Pat brought up are both totally legitimate, and there are things that we'll try to address best in our drawings as best as we can. But ultimately, they're not really zoning variance questions. They're really construction questions, which are important. I'm not trying to diminish them, but they really don't have a whole lot to do with the 11 inches. Their concerns are legitimate, whether we were doing the project of any size. And they should be. They should be concerned about a project of any size. But I don't believe the 11 inches really impacts or makes their conditions worse. Again, I hope that doesn't sound like I'm trying to diminish their comments. That's not my goal here at all. It's only to say that from a zoning perspective, we feel like the 11 inches are well warranted and make complete sense in this neighborhood.
Sure. Okay. I think we'll leave it at that. I've had a chance to review the application materials and the staff report. Based on that and based on past projects in Hyde Park for additions and the testimony here today, I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code to this particular application, and so I am going to approve the requested relief. I do agree also with Mr. Bush's statements there at the end that in terms of what I can enforce when it comes to the construction and how that is accomplished outside of, you know, trespassing or something like that. I don't have a whole lot of power in my role to tell them how and when they can construct it. I will say that in chapter 909 of the Cincinnati Municipal Code, there are sound ordinances. There's a sound ordinance that restricts certain decibels at certain hours. And so if there is an issue with that as this progresses and you feel like they're outside of that, that would be one means of trying to enforce that. But generally, in my experience, conversation with the neighbor and, you know, private resolution is generally the best way to handle those issues. But in the event that there's something that can't be resolved, there is technically some noise ordinance levels that are set by the city that cannot be that you cannot go over. Let's see. So I need to formalize this approval in a written decision. I mentioned at the beginning that typically takes about 2 weeks. I'll do everything I can to get that to you as quickly as possible. As soon as I finish that decision, which will include an outline of some of the reasoning for the approval and conditions of the approval, I'll put that into a PDF and I'll email it to everybody in the hearing here today. So you all will have a copy of that decision really just moments after it's complete, to drawing department and the Rileys. Kate Meehan will also be on that email. As soon as she sees that, she can approve the zoning permitting on her end, and you all can take the next steps. Any questions about that process from anyone, or questions about anything? Okay, great. Well, if you have any questions in the meantime, anyone, feel free to reach out to me directly, or if you'd like a status update on the decision, again, happy to answer any of those questions and give you an update on where I'm at. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day. Good luck with the project to the Rileys, and we're adjourned here. Bye.
Thank
Thank you very
you.